Well, hello, people of El Paso, and thank you for tuning in to our another episode of our podcast here. And today we have a very special guest with us. He's a legend here in El Paso and all over the nation. Mr. JJ Arms, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, and I hope you guys are doing fine. And I also recommend you guys to wear a mask when you're out with everybody, you know?
True, we do apologize not bringing a mask, but sometimes it's kind of hard to also record with a mask because it sounds a little muffled, you know? But, yeah. And, Mr. Arms, Mr. JJ Arms, how long have you been in El Paso? You always been a resident of El Paso?
I'm a resident of El Paso. I was born here in El Paso, and although I've been all over the world in my type of work, because they call me from all over, and for all the crimes that they can't solve, the Lord's been giving me a gift, you know, that everybody's got a gift. So I've used my gift for many years on very important cases, murder cases, disappearance,
Right.
runaways, murder, homicides, suicides, you name it. And I've been very, very careful in traveling all over the world and solving my cases.
Yeah, that's amazing. How did you get so famous, Mr. JJ?
Well, no, I just hard work and determination, I would say,
Right.
because I'm very tenacious in any case that I take. And I asked the Lord, I wonder why He's got me here. And my wife says that the reason I'm still here is the Lord Jesus has got a special mission for me.
Right.
And every case that I get, I think that's the special mission that the Lord's got for me. So I solve the case, and nothing happens. I figured that's not the mission. I keep going. So every case that comes in from all over, I think that's the case that the Lord has selected for me.
Right.
And so I keep going, and I'm determined in everything that I do.
Right. Also, I was wondering, what is one of the most memorable cases you've ever worked in? Can you tell us a little bit about
Well, all the cases that I have
all of them?
are memorable, but I saw when Marlon Brando was alive, and they kidnapped his son,
Wow.
Christian, and Brando was filming The Last Tango in Paris, and he hired me from Paris to find his son because he had been kidnapped.
Right.
So I did the research where he lived and all that, and it just led me on to Mexico,
Oh, wow.
and I found it was 8 people that were involved in the kidnapping, and they asked for a ransom, you know, and so it led me into Mexico. So I went in my helicopter,
Oh, wow.
my Hughes 500, and I landed right there in Mexico in a schoolyard, and I went into the federal police to ask if they could go with me,
Right.
because I was in search of a vehicle, a Volkswagen, and I had the license number. I didn't tell them that the boy Christian Brando was the son of a very famous actor,
Right.
and so I selected five federal police, and of course they didn't want to fly with me. They saw that I had my prosthesis. They
Right.
said, "This guy's going to kill us." And one of them said, "Oh no," he says, "I even get airsick when I get into an elevator." And the other one said, "Oh no, I've got 7 kids and who's gonna take care of those kids if a bus dumper goes down? So they had all kinds of excuses. They said, we'll follow you, and because there was, I was going to San Felipe,
Right.
which is right on the coast of the U.S. and Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So ran into the ocean up there, and there were some caves in the ocean. I mean, in the walls of the ocean there, and on the outside.
Right.
So those federal agents, five federal agents, they were following me in the four-wheel drive vehicle
Right.
because there was only one road on San Felipe.
Right.
So I was going after that car,
Mm-hmm.
that Volkswagen, and I would wake up real early at sunlight, and just follow the trail, and there was nothing doing until the fifth day. I ran into they had the red Volkswagen hidden,
Mm-hmm.
and I could tell from the back what license it had.
Yeah.
So I went back, flew back to catch up with those guys that were follow the five federal agents.
Mm-hmm.
They were just going about their business and drinking tequila and whatever they were drinking. And so I landed, and I told them, I says, I've located them, so hold on, why don't you come with me? Oh, no, I said, we'll follow you. So I went airborne again, and until and I was armed with 30 caliber
Mm-hmm.
gun,
Right.
and anyway, so I landed. I went into the cave, one of the caves, and I had my gun. So I kicking all these guys sleeping bags.
Right.
This was pretty early. It was daybreak. So anyway, when they would get up. I mean, some were naked, some with women. I lined them up because I figured I had backup.
Right.
And so when I lined up all eight of them, and then the last one, it was a little tent, and that's where Christian Brando was, and he had double pneumonia, and he couldn't breathe. He barely could breathe.
Right.
So I lined up with these guys, and I looked back to see my backup. I could see him hiding in the bushes.
Right.
So I says, come on, you guys, I already have them lined up. Come on out. And in Spanish, come on out. I've got these people lined up, and they were all lined up. Some were naked and some weren't. And so anyway, they came out with their 45s, and they couldn't be they couldn't search them for guns.
Right.
Because they were nude. And so anyway, they took over, and I got Christian out of the little tent.
Yeah.
He could barely breathe. So I got him in the helicopter and flew back to the U.S.
Right.
And we landed at the airport there,
Mm-hmm.
and in the L.A. airport, and we went to a telephone booth,
Mm-hmm.
and I called the house because Brando told me that he'd be back in 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I called the house to see if they had left any news about when he was coming back. So Brando answered the phone.
Mm-hmm.
He says, no, he says, Jay says, I'm here now. And I said, well, he says, and I've got some good pictures of Christian, and so you can show him around. I said, I got better news than that. I said, I've got Christian with me. And he couldn't believe it. So I put him on the phone, and he says, "Don't move. I'll be there very shortly." So he had a police escort to escort him to the airport, and because I told him that Christian was pretty sick.
Yeah.
So sure enough, they got there in no time at all, and we went to the hospital, and they put him under pulmonary care, and they told him he's in bad shape. We don't know if he can make it. So they gave him good therapy and good medications, and they pulled him through.
Right.
And when Brendo says, when we were at the hospital, says, "Okay, let's go have a big party," I said, "No, I'm so tired." I had a white shirt with a tie, but it was black by this time. The shirt was black, just dirty.
Right.
Because I had been on it day and night.
Working.
Excuse me. So anyway, we went ahead and I told him that we had the people under arrest down in Mexico. And they had demanded $5 million ransom. And the one that was involved was Christian, Brando's ex-wife.
Right.
So she had orchestrated all this. And
That's crazy.
I told him about it. And so he said he's been trying to get custody of Christian for 11 years. And I said, "Well, we can get you custody now, but we can prove it." Anyway, we got through. And then we went to court after that. A few weeks later, we went to court, and Brando got custody.
Right.
There's a show now on the internet,
Right.
and that's the last interview that Brando did, and he says if it hadn't been for J. Arms, I wouldn't have gotten custody.
Right.
But anyway, after that, Christian grew up, and he started going the wrong way with drugs and all that.
Right. Well, how old was Christian when this happened?
He was 11 years old.
Oh, he was really young.
He was 11 years old. So then I kept in touch with him, and they kept in touch with me. Brenda called me one night, and he says, "Hey Jay, I've got some bad news." He says, "My son Christian shot Cheyenne's boyfriend and killed him."
What?
And I says, he says, "What shall I do?" I said, "Call the paramedics, and don't call the police." I said, "Call the paramedics, make sure that that man is dead, and tell them the truth."
Yeah.
That your son did it, and because the boyfriend was living there in the compound with him, and he had beaten up Cheyenne, the daughter, and so when Christian got the information right after the incident, he went over there and shot him dead. Shot him dead. So anyway, the paramedics got there, declared the boyfriend dead, and then they got the paramedics called the police, and then they went into court, and of course they held Christian
For
for
murder.
trial, and the famous actor Brando, he hired one of these badass attorneys, and the attorney guaranteed him that he would exonerate Christian,
Right.
and I went to court as a witness that he had had a lot of trouble since he was kidnapped,
Mm-hmm.
and that was I blamed his old history on the kidnapping,
Right.
and she was going to be exonerated. But when the judge, he told Brenda paid $1 million for his defense,
Right.
and so anyway, when the court, when the judge started asked everybody to stand up, and he started preaching about these famous quote, these famous families, they commit murder and they think they're going to get away with it.
Right.
I knew right then that that the attorney had not made no contacts with the judge,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "I'm going to sentence this subject to 10 years in jail." So Brando just jumped out of the bench there, and he started getting after the judge and after the attorney.
Right.
And he says, "Jay, you were right." He says, this attorney did not even do his work. But anyway, they gave Christian
10 years.
10 years. And after a few years that he was in jail, he's behaved himself. And he was out.
Mm-hmm.
He was out on parole. And he started going bad again with drugs and all that until he overdosed with drugs and died.
Damn, that's a
So
sad story.
Brando took it real hard.
Mm-hmm.
And on this home video that that's on right now, Brando was interviewed, and that was the last interview that he had allowed before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And because he took it real bad that Christian
Right.
Brando
That's-
and Christian Brando suffered because of the sentence and the way he was, and the way Christian was out.
Mhm.
And he was misbehaving. Then he died, and then Cheyenne hung herself,
Oh, damn.
and so,
Tragic.
he had a lot of tragedies.
Right.
So,
Wow.
but he had a bad life, but he was grateful that I had got him
Christian back for
Christian back.
Wow. And speaking about cases in Mexico and all the disappearing women in Juarez, did you ever get a case?
I worked on that case, yes. Oh, yeah. That was when they had the Carnica, the Carnica clinics
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in Juarez,
Right.
and they were saying that the police were killing these girls and all that.
Right.
That wasn't true. What it was that they were kidnapping these girls in motels or out of the places where they were working at
The maquilas.
at maquilas,
Mm-hmm.
and they were kidnapping them, and they were killing them for their body parts, and they had all these Carnica. There was 7 Carnica clinics, and they were all having a contest for the body parts. So they would call each other and say, "Well, I only have 10 kidneys, and I understand you guys
So they would trade body parts?
They would trade body parts, and they were using that, and they were making a lot of money, and they were going and killing each other from the clinics for the body parts. But the police were not. The police were bad, but they were not killing the girls. And I worked on that case, and then I gave the information for the chief of police,
Mm-hmm.
and And I told him, I says, keep it under wraps. Keep it under wraps. Don't say anything. Of course not. He started making interviews and all that as to what happened. And they killed him and his two sons. And they cut his head off and parked him right in the middle of the bridge where there's just before you get into the U.S.
Right, right.
And they had him. They had body parts in the back of this car, and his two sons.
That's crazy. That's
So, you name it. I worked those cases all over, and I worked people from the penitentiaries call me, and they all want to hire me, and a bunch of them have a lot of money. They're from their funny business,
right. Yeah.
and try to tell me that they're innocent and all that. But there's some innocents, that
Right.
are in prison. So I've been doing a lot of that also,
Oh,
and but I work all over the world.
And how would you know if they're innocent or not? Like how?
I conduct an investigation
Right.
on their background and however the case went in court and all that,
Right.
and I find out if they're really guilty or not.
Wow. Now let me ask you something. I know that I could tell you're a very religious person, but not too long ago, the New York Times came out saying that the government admits that they had seen some UFO aircraft kind of outside of San Diego. I wanted to go ahead and ask you, do you believe that we are alone? Or do you believe that there's other beings out there, and do you think they come around and visit?
I really don't believe in that.
You don't believe in none of that?
I don't believe in that because all of them is like when they've seen that half animal and half human, and they only take pictures of while he's far away.
Right, yeah,
And,
you can't even see.
Yes, and so I've heard all kinds started in New Mexico,
Right,
and
with Los Alamos and all that.
yes, with those animals. But I don't believe that there's any other visitors from outer space.
Right,
If there might be coming in, but there aren't any now.
right. They're
Or I
not.
would have run into them. But when I was on city council in the 80s,
Right,
I had real good contact with the U.S. Army,
right,
and they would share information about the city that's under in the mountains here in El Paso. There's a city that's underground,
right.
and it is true about that.
Oh, that is true.
That is true. And so anyway, I had good information. They took me on a tour, and that there was such things,
Right.
But there are many things in many cases that I've worked that are stranger than fiction,
UFOs and all that stuff. Yeah.
Huh?
Damn, that's crazy. And to anyone out there trying to be a private investigator, is there any advice you would want to give them, or do you have to go to school for this? Or how do you become a private investigator?
Well, let me tell you, people don't know about really the activities of a private investigator, and a private investigator has more leverage than a police officer, and then the FBI, and more leverage than city police or U.S. marshals, because a police officer has the jurisdiction of the immediate city, which is about 30 miles. and they cannot go out of their jurisdiction to investigate a crime. And a police officer can't do it. A sheriff's office cannot do it either. They cannot go out of the jurisdiction of the U.S. And if the FBI can only investigate within the contents of the country, they cannot go into another jurisdiction out of the U.S. And the investigator, private investigator, can go anywhere in international. If they're private investigators like I am, I go all over the world, and there's no jurisdiction and no limits.
Right.
That's the difference with a city police, with a police officer, and a private investigator. To be able to be an investigator, you have to go and to a school and for a year and be able to have a clean background of no police arrest, and also go into the jurisdiction of working with a police agency as a substitute or a part-time officer, and get the knowledge, and then you can get certified as a police officer in the city.
Right. Wow, that's crazy. And
I have a school where we train people to be investigators, and it's they can do it online.
Oh, they could do it online?
Right, and it's a year course.
Right.
Yes, you get all your lessons daily, and then you have an exam every month of the lessons that you've studied, and for a year you become the experience as I stated, that like a police officer or that. I'm a certified police officer, and I was I was a constable, deputy constable, for about 19 years, in different districts, and so I have a lot of experience in police work.
Right.
So people don't know this, and I've been a city councilman. I was a city councilman for 4 years.
Right.
Here in El Paso, and I was in charge of the airport. I was in charge as a city councilman. I was in charge of the courts. I was in charge of the police. I was in charge of even the sanitation department.
Wow.
So I knew a little bit about everything. When I went to work, when I went to Conaran to apply for my city council certification, they gave me all kinds of work so that I wouldn't have time to investigate the people in the city, because there was a lot of corruption in the city. But I had time to do my work in all these chores that I had with different jurisdictions, and then I had time to even run my investigative business and investigate the people that were in the corruption of the city. The engineers would bring in people from different agencies that they represent, and introduce them to me. And a lot of them wanted to leave money there, and I said, no, I don't take any money. And they said, oh, we give money to all the city councilmen. Well, this city councilman doesn't take any money. And that, I had a real, like, you think that our president, Trump, has the problems. Let me tell you, I had the same problems. They hated me because I couldn't go into any department, because right away they thought that I was investigating them. And so, I mean, I had a rough time as city councilman, this is why I quit. I said, I can't do it anymore because they would come to my home at 2 o'clock in the morning,
What?
wake me up. I'll give you an example. One day, at 2 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Arms, he says, you have to come and see what they've done to my son. There was a agency close to on Yarborough. That was a police agency, and he said, Mr. Arms, they got my son full of blood. He didn't do anything. He's got blood from head to toes. He says, and he didn't do anything. He's just a young man. So they'd wake me up. I'd go because I was in charge of the police. So I'd go down there, and sure enough, there was a kid there full of blood, and so I would ask, why is he like this? Well, Mr. Arms, he was running, and they would climb this fence, and the fence had a lot of the barbed wire, and then when he got to the top, we pulled him down from his feet, and that's how he got cut. Why did you do that? Well, because he was carrying contraband, and you see right there, there's 15 pounds of cocaine. And then the mother would say, oh, she was there. She said, oh no, they planted it on him. They planted it on him. So I said to myself, I don't want to be a councilman anymore. So this is it.
Right. So you only did 4 years?
Yeah, and I had a radio program. I was on radio, on the Mexican radio, for every Saturday, and I would tell the people, if you need anything in our district, because I brought in $50 million into our district.
Right.
And when I started there, it was the coffers of the city were empty. They didn't have a cent for my district. So I brought in $50 million, and the one that helped me to get grants was the governor at that time was George Bush.
Oh, okay.
And we became good friends.
Oh, wow.
And I became a good friend of his associate, Dick Cheney.
Right.
And in my vestibule downstairs, you'll see a picture of the president and myself.
Wow.
And Dick Cheney. So he taught me how to get federal grants, state grants, and private grants. So I got all the money that my district needed for anything. So I would tell them on my radio show, if you need anything, just call. Oh boy, I'll leave the station with a big old roll of to do things, you know.
Yeah.
And so I gave my district whatever they wanted. So I got so tired of that too. So anyway, I've done a lot of things in my short life.
Right. It's very interesting. That's why you're a legend in El Paso. One last question. Do you still have all your exotic animals?
No, I got rid of most of them. But the exotic animals are very expensive to keep.
Right.
I would spend about $70,000 a year in just their feed, because the cheetahs that I have, they're in one diet. The lions were in another diet, and the other animals that I had were on different diets. I even had an elephant, baby elephant, and so all the animals were on special diets. So it was very costly.
Right.
And I was still working as an investigator and doing my work with city council.
Right. And you were never scared of like the cheetahs and
I had cheetahs. I had the zebras. I had the Appaloosas. I crossed an Appaloosa with another cat, and not another cat, but the Appaloosas to my zebras.
Right.
And I got some offsprings,
Right.
and I had whatever I did. I had and I did whatever I wanted to do. I'm an
Right.
author, and I have 2 books, and I'm working on another one.
Wow.
And my new book is going to be called My Best Secret Agent,
Wow.
because my best secret agent, I selected Jesus Christ as being my
Right.
secret agent,
Right. Right.
and that's going to be the name of the new book. So I've got an action figure that
Yeah, I saw
the only
those.
one, the only private investigator in the world that they've had an action figure.
Right.
If you see if you go downstairs to be in back of that sofa there,
Mm-hmm.
there's a picture.
Right.
There's a you see it?
Right. Nah.
It says the legend of J. Arms and the history of, and I'm the only one for real. The rest of them are all fiction characters.
Yeah, that's what I was telling them when we were driving here. I'm like, who else is a real life hero? Like, there's Batman, Superman, but they didn't really exist, right? But you were a real person, and
And I'm still here, and I'm still working.
Exactly, you're still going hard, and Mr. JJ Arms, we want to go ahead and thank you for this interview. We don't want to go ahead and take too much of your time.
It's all right. You wait till you get the bill.
Right. Go ahead, man. And is there anything else you want to go ahead and tell the people? Any advice? Any?
I always say, be honest with everyone,
Right.
and be proud of our president that we have now,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know how lucky we are to have a president like him.
Mm-hmm.
He has been the best president we've ever had. He didn't need all this garbage that they're throwing at him.
Right.
And for 4 years, it's been a terrible tragedy that they're trying to get him out of office.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I say that people don't know how lucky they are to have a president like Donald Trump. I
Right.
used to be a Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran for office as a Democrat. But I'm right now, I am not proud
Right.
of
Right.
the fact that I was a Democrat, because they're so negative in everything instead of being positive.
Right.
And just take a look at all this business of black
Lives Matter.
yeah, black lives matter. What about the white lives? They
Right.
don't matter.
Right.
And so I'm telling you, the president is doing exactly what has to be done to do away with all these rebel rousers. And they're going to problems and to burn people's businesses.
Right. Yeah.
And they're terrible. They have an excuse. They're terrorists. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They're terrorists.
Vandalism.
Not
Protesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy how people try to protest, but there's all these looters.
They're using that as a ploy,
Mm-hmm.
to, protesting so that they can have an opportunity to burn the people that
People's
are in
properties.
business and take off with their TVs and furniture and everything they can get a hold of.
Right.
So it's sad, and if we get in, if this Biden wins, I think we should go live somewhere else.
Yeah, that's become a real problem if Biden wins. I agree with you there. Well, Mr. Arms,
I'm glad you guys are doing this project, and I wish you well.
we do want to go ahead and thank you also for giving us a little bit of your time and this interesting podcast that people out there want to know about you. You're like a mystery out there. And thank you, Mr. JJ.
All right, nice talking to you.
Thank you.